My brother's luxury wedding. He thought it'd be hilarious to introduce me like this. This is my pathetic brother. No degree, no career, just a failed delivery driver. I never argued. I never corrected him. I let them believe I was nothing. But that night, my arrogant family was about to discover who really paid for everything. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now let's dive into today's story. The rain had stopped by the time Jack Harlan pulled his truck into the gravel lot outside his mother's house. The August air sat heavy and still, thick enough to taste the humidity on his tongue. He could see her through the kitchen window, hunched over the sink, washing dishes in that careful way she'd adopted since the arthritis had gotten worse. Jack killed the engine and sat for a moment, hand still on the wheel. The dashboard clock read 7:43 p.m. He'd finished his last delivery 40 minutes ago, driven straight here like he did most evenings. His phone buzzed in the cup holder, another logistics request for tomorrow's route. He ignored it. When he walked through the back door, his mother turned from the sink, drying her hands on a faded dish towel. Eleanor Harlan was 68, though she looked older these days. The years after his father's death had carved lines into her face that no amount of rest seemed to erase. "You didn't have to come by tonight," she said, though they both knew that wasn't true. "I know." Jack set a bag of groceries on the counter, the items she always forgot to mention she needed. Milk, bread, her specific brand of coffee. "How are you feeling?" "Fine." She folded the towel with precise movements. "Your brother called today." Jack opened the refrigerator, reorganizing to make room. "Yeah." The wedding invitations went out. Eleanor's voice carried something uncertain, almost apologetic. "You'll be getting yours." He placed the milk on the top shelf, moved some condiments around. "When is it?" "September 23rd. At that lodge near Table Rock Lake. The nice one that got renovated." Jack closed the refrigerator door and leaned against it, studying his mother's expression. She wasn't looking at him directly, which meant she was working up to something. "Mom, I just want you to know." She paused, folding and refolding the towel. "Your brother is very excited. It's important to him. To both of them. I'll be there. I know you will." It's just another pause. You know how Trent can be sometimes. When he's nervous or trying to be funny, he doesn't always think about how things sound. There it was. The warning, delivered gently, as if cushioning him from an inevitable blow. Jack had learned over the years that his mother did this. Prepared him for Trent's behavior the way you might warn someone about a dog that bites. Not because she approved, but because she'd given up on changing it. "It's fine, Mom. I just don't want there to be any tension. It's his wedding day." "There won't be." She finally looked at him then, her eyes searching his face for something. Resentment. Maybe anger. But Jack had gotten good at keeping those things buried deep, where they couldn't complicate family gatherings. "You're a good son," she said quietly. He kissed her forehead. "I'll see you tomorrow." Driving home through the empty streets of Hollis Creek, Jack passed the familiar landmarks of his entire life. The hardware store where he'd worked summers in high school. The diner where his father used to buy coffee every morning. The elementary school where both he and Trent had learned to read. Hollis Creek, Missouri wasn't the kind of place people dreamed about. It was the kind of place they left if they could. A town of 6,000 people, shrinking slowly as the younger generation moved to Springfield or St. Louis or anywhere with better prospects. The town square still had a courthouse, a few local businesses struggling against the Dollar General on the highway, and 3 churches competing for a dwindling congregation. Trent had left at 18, headed to the University of Missouri with a partial scholarship and their parents' blessing. He'd studied business, gotten recruited by a firm in St. Louis, and never looked back except for obligatory holidays. He spoke about Hollis Creek the way people talk about a phase they'd outgrown, with affectionate condescension. Jack had planned to leave too once. He'd had acceptance letters, a future that looked different than this one. Then their father collapsed at the hardware store on a Tuesday morning in March. Heart attack, dead before the ambulance arrived. Jack was 21. Trent was 24 and already settled in St. Louis, already building the life he'd imagined. Someone had to stay. Not forever, Jack had told himself at the time. Just until Mom was stable. just until the estate was settled and the bills were managed, and she wasn't eating dinner alone every night in a house full of ghosts. But just until had a way of becoming permanent. He'd started driving deliveries for a regional logistics company, flexible hours that let him check on his mother between routes. Then he'd picked up warehouse work. Then he'd started noticing inefficiencies in the routing systems, gaps in the network that cost companies money. He'd started making suggestions, building relationships, creating solutions. 5 years ago, he'd registered an LLC, Harlan Freight Solutions. Nothing fancy, just him, his truck, and a growing network of contracts that let him coordinate shipments more efficiently than the bigger companies could. He kept it quiet, operated under the radar. To everyone in Hollis Creek, including his family, he was just Jack, the one who delivered packages, the one who never left, the one who never made anything of himself. Jack pulled into the driveway of his rental house, a small 2-bedroom on the east side of town. Not much, but it was his. Paid on time, no debt. Inside, he made a sandwich, checked tomorrow's delivery schedule on his laptop, and reviewed the logistics contracts that actually kept him comfortable. His phone buzzed again. This time he looked. A text from Trent. Mom said she told you about the wedding. You're coming, right? Would mean a lot. Jack stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back, yeah, I'll be there. Congrats. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared. Thanks, man. Also, quick favor. The venue needs final payments routed through that LLC you set up for me. Can you handle that? You're better with the paperwork stuff. Jack's jaw tightened. That LLC, the one Trent barely remembered existed, the one he'd asked Jack to set up years ago because Trent had been drowning in credit card debt and needed a clean way to reorganize his finances. Jack had done it, loaned him money to clear the worst of it, set up the structure properly. Trent had never asked questions, never looked at the paperwork, never bothered to understand what Jack had actually built. Sure, Jack typed. Send me the details. You're the best. Seriously. Don't know what I'd do without you handling this stuff. Jack set the phone down and stared at the ceiling. The thing about being useful, he'd learned, was that people stopped seeing you as anything else. The invitation arrived 3 days later in a thick cream envelope, his name written in elaborate calligraphy. Jack opened it at the kitchen table. Heavy cardstock, gold embossed lettering, a separate response card with a pre-stamped envelope. The kind of invitation that cost $5 per unit. Mr. Trent Harlan and Ms. Victoria Brennan request the honor of your presence at their wedding celebration. September 23rd, 2023. Lodge at Mirror Lake. Cocktail hour at 5 p.m., ceremony at 6 p.m., reception to follow. Black tie optional. Jack flipped the card over. On the back, in smaller print, accommodations available at the lodge for out-of-town guests. Please contact the venue directly. He pulled up the lodge website on his phone. The picture showed exactly what he'd expected. Rustic elegance, exposed wooden beams, panoramic views of Table Rock Lake, a renovated barn-turned-reception hall. Rooms started at $250 per night. His phone rang. Trent's name on the screen. Hey, Jack answered. Did you get the invitation? Just opened it. What do you think? Victoria picked the design. Took her 3 months to find the right one. Trent's voice carried that particular enthusiasm he got when spending money on things that impress people. The venue is incredible. Wait until you see it in person. Looks nice. Nice? It's perfect. Victoria's been planning this for a year. Every detail matters to her. A pause. You'll need to RSVP soon. They're doing a final head count. I will. And about those payment arrangements, did you get the vendor contracts I forwarded? Jack had gotten them. 7 different vendors, all routed through the LLC Jack owned, all with final payment schedules that Trent had casually delegated to him, as if it were just paperwork, just logistics, just the kind of thing Jack was good at. Yeah, I got them. Perfect. You'll make sure everything goes through on time, right? Victoria's really stressed about the details. It'll be fine. You're a lifesaver. Seriously. Trent's tone shifted slightly. Hey, I know you probably don't want to wear a tux, but it's black tie optional, so at least a suit, okay? Victoria's really particular about the photos. Jack's grip tightened on the phone. I own a suit, Trent. I know. I'm just saying. It's important. Got it. All right, I've got to run. Conference call in 5. Talk soon. The line went dead. Jack set the phone down and stared at the invitation. Black tie optional. The photos. The careful management of how things looked. He wondered if Victoria knew that the man she was marrying had borrowed $5,000 from his younger brother 3 years ago to pay off credit card debt from trying to maintain appearances he couldn't afford. He wondered if she knew that same younger brother was the one making sure her perfect wedding actually got paid for. Probably not. People rarely ask questions when things ran smoothly. September arrived with cooler temperatures and the first hints of autumn color in the trees. Jack spent the weeks leading up to the wedding managing his actual work, the freight business that kept growing despite his best efforts to keep it low profile, and handling the logistics for Trent's wedding. Deposits to the florist, final payments to the caterer, confirmation with the photographer, coordination with the venue for setup times and vendor access. All of it routed through his LLC. All of it technically under his control. He didn't think much about that at first. It was just another task, another thing to manage because Trent couldn't be bothered with details. But as the wedding approached, as the final payments came due, Jack started noticing something that sat uneasily in his chest. None of it acknowledged him. None of the vendors knew he existed. To them, it was just Trent's wedding, Trent's money, Trent's event. When Jack called to confirm details, they spoke to him like a third-party coordinator, polite but perfunctory. And maybe that was fine. Maybe that was just how it worked. But on a Thursday night 2 weeks before the wedding, Jack sat at his kitchen table reviewing the payment schedule, and something shifted in his mind. A quiet recognition, like suddenly seeing a pattern that had always been there. He controlled this. All of it. The LLC was his. The payments were his. The contracts were his name, his tax ID, his legal structure. Trent had signed exactly 2 pieces of paper years ago and forgot about it. Everything since then, Jack had built it, maintained it, used it to keep his own business running while quietly letting Trent treat it like a personal administrative assistant. Jack opened his laptop and pulled up the vendor contracts. Every single one had a payment schedule. Every single one had a release clause. Every single one depended on him authorizing the final transfers. He sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. He didn't decide anything that night. He just noticed the power he'd been holding without realizing it was power at all. The day of the wedding arrived with perfect weather. Clear skies, temperature in the mid-70s, a light breeze off the lake. Jack drove to the lodge in his truck, suit hanging in the back, overnight bag packed because his mother had insisted he might want to stay rather than drive home late. The lodge at Mirror Lake lived up to its website. A sprawling timber frame structure built into the hillside, with stone pathways winding through landscape gardens and a massive deck overlooking the water. Cars were already filling the parking area. Expensive sedans, luxury SUVs, vehicles that made Jack's work truck look exactly like what it was. He parked at the far end, grabbed his bag, and walked toward the entrance. Inside, the main hall had been transformed into something from a magazine spread. White floral arrangements taller than Jack. Candles and glass hurricanes lining every surface. Soft lighting that made everything glow. A string quartet playing near the windows. Guests in cocktail attire wandering with champagne glasses, their voices creating a pleasant murmur of anticipation. Jack found his mother near the bar, talking with his Aunt Patricia. Eleanor wore a dress she'd bought specifically for this occasion. Navy blue, conservative, the most she'd spent on clothing in 5 years. Jack, she brightened when she saw him. You made it. I was starting to worry. Traffic was fine. Patricia looked him up and down with that particular expression she saved for family members she found disappointing. You're not wearing that, are you? I'm changing before the ceremony. Good. Trent wants everything to look right in the photos. She sipped her wine. This whole event must have cost a fortune. Victoria's family has money, you know. Her father owns some kind of consulting firm. Eleanor touched Jack's arm gently. Have you seen your brother yet? Not yet. He's probably getting ready with the groomsmen. You should go find him, say hello. Jack nodded and excused himself, making his way through the crowd toward the back hallways where the preparation rooms were located. He passed more guests, more champagne, more conversations about how beautiful everything looked. Nobody looked at him directly. He was just another body in the crowd, unremarkable, forgettable. He found Trent in a room overlooking the lake, surrounded by three of his friends from St. Louis. All of them in tuxedos, all of them laughing at something on someone's phone. Trent stood in the center, adjusting his bow tie in a full-length mirror, looking exactly like what he'd always wanted to be: successful, confident, chosen. "Jack!" Trent turned, grin wide. "There he is, my little brother." The others looked over briefly, nodded politely, then returned to their phones. "Hey." Jack stayed in the doorway. "Everything going okay?" "Perfect. Absolutely perfect." Trent adjusted his cufflinks. "Did you confirm all the payments went through?" Victoria was paranoid about something going wrong with the vendors. "All confirmed. See? I told her you had it handled." Trent turned back to the mirror. "You should go get changed. Ceremony starts in an hour." "Yeah." Jack left before Trent could say anything else. He found a bathroom at the end of the hall, changed into his suit. Simple, dark gray, nothing fancy but perfectly appropriate, and rejoined the gathering as guests began moving toward the ceremony space. The ceremony took place on the deck overlooking the lake, chairs arranged in neat rows, an arbor wrapped in white fabric, and roses positioned at the front. The sun hung low on the horizon, painting everything in warm gold light. A photographer circulated, capturing angles and moments. Jack sat in the third row with his mother. Patricia was somewhere behind them. Other relatives he barely saw had scattered throughout the crowd. Cousins, uncles, family friends who'd watched Trent grow up and leave and succeed. The string quartet shifted to the wedding march. Everyone stood. Victoria appeared at the back of the aisle, her father beside her. She looked beautiful in the way brides do, carefully planned, perfectly executed. Jack watched Trent's face as she approached, saw genuine emotion there, something real beneath all the performance. Maybe that was enough, he thought. Maybe love could exist inside all this pageantry and pretension. The ceremony itself was brief, traditional vows delivered with practiced sincerity. When the officiant pronounced them married, the guests erupted in applause. Trent kissed Victoria, and the photographer captured it from 3 different angles. Then it was done. The cocktail hour resumed with increased energy. Guests moved back inside. Drinks were refreshed. Appetizers appeared on silver trays. Jack stood near the bar, nursing a beer, watching people circulate. His mother found him. "Beautiful ceremony, wasn't it?" "Yeah. Your brother looks so happy." Jack nodded. "Are you okay, honey? You seem quiet." "I'm fine, Mom." She studied his face with that particular mother's scrutiny that saw through everything. "I know this must be hard sometimes, seeing him like this. I'm happy for him. I know you are. But it's still okay to feel." She paused. "You've done so much for this family, Jack. For me. I hope you know that." He kissed her forehead. "I know." But even as he said it, he wondered if she actually understood what that meant. All the bills he'd paid, all the money he'd quietly provided, all the times he'd held things together while Trent sent cards on birthdays and visited twice a year. The reception began as the sun finally set. Guests filed into the main hall, now set up with round tables covered in white linens, centerpieces of hydrangeas and roses, placed cards in gold calligraphy, directing everyone to assigned seats. Jack found his table near the back, sharing space with distant cousins and family friends he barely knew. The wedding party made their entrance to applause and cheering. Trent and Victoria took their seats at the head table. Dinner service began, plated courses delivered by servers in black vests, wine flowing freely, conversations rising to fill the space. Jack ate mechanically, participated in small talk when necessary, and watched Trent hold court at the head table. His brother was animated, laughing, telling stories that made everyone around him lean in. Victoria smiled beside him, radiant and perfect. Then came the toasts. The best man went first, a college friend of Trent's who told a story about a road trip gone wrong and how Trent had somehow turned it into an adventure. People laughed. Victoria's maid of honor followed with something heartfelt about friendship and finding the right person. More applause. Then Trent stood, glass in hand. Jack felt his mother tense beside him. "Thank you all for being here tonight," Trent began, his voice carrying easily across the room. Victoria and I are so grateful you could celebrate with us. This has been an amazing day, and it wouldn't be possible without the people we love. He gestured toward their parents' generation. To my mom, who taught me to never give up on my dreams. To Victoria's parents, who welcomed me into their family. To all our friends who supported us. Then his eyes found Jack. And to my little brother, Jack. Trent's smile widened. Can you stand up, Jack? The room turned to look. Jack felt every eye on him. His mother's hand tightened on his arm. He stood slowly. This, Trent continued, his tone shifting to something affectionate but edged with humor that wasn't quite humor, is my brother Jack. He's the one who never left Hollis Creek, never finished college, still delivers packages for a living. A few uncertain laughs rippled through the crowd. But we keep him around, Trent added, raising his glass. Someone's got to stay humble in this family, right? The laughter grew louder, more comfortable. People who didn't know whether the joke was mean or loving decided it was funny enough to go along with. Jack stood there, smile fixed on his face, watching his brother bask in the attention, watching the crowd laugh, watching his mother's face go pale with embarrassment on his behalf. To Jack, Trent said, for always being exactly who he is. Glasses raised. People drank. Jack sat back down. Honey, his mother started. It's fine. He didn't mean. I know what he meant. The reception continued. Music started. The dance began. Jack excused himself, walked out to the deck, stood at the railing staring at the dark water. Behind him, the celebration continued without pause. Laughter, music, the sound of happiness untouched by anything resembling awareness. He stood there for a long time, hands gripping the railing, breathing in the cool night air. The moment felt familiar, not because it was new, but because it was the same as 100 other moments over the years. The same quiet diminishment. The same assumption that Jack's life was smaller, simpler, less significant than it actually was. The same comfort everyone took in believing it. He pulled out his phone and opened the banking app for his LLC. The vendor payments were all queued, all scheduled to release at midnight tonight as per the contracts, all requiring his final authorization. Jack stared at the screen for a long time. Then he went back inside. The morning after the wedding arrived with weak sunlight filtering through thin hotel curtains. Jack woke at 6:30, body trained by years of early deliveries to reject sleeping in. His room was small, generic in that way that all lodge accommodations become when stripped of daylight. Beige walls, landscape painting of the lake, desk, and chair that nobody ever used. He showered, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, and went downstairs to the breakfast area. A few guests were scattered around small tables. Older relatives eating scrambled eggs, a couple of groomsmen nursing coffee and hangovers. The buffet offered the standard spread, pastries, fruit, industrial coffee. Jack filled a plate and sat by the window overlooking the lake. The water reflected gray clouds, surface rippled by wind. Weather moving in. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother. Are you still at the lodge? Come have breakfast with me before you drive home. He found her 20 minutes later in the main dining room, sitting with Patricia and Uncle Glenn. Eleanor smiled when she saw him, but the expression didn't quite reach her eyes. Morning, honey. Did you sleep okay? Fine. Jack pulled out a chair. You? Patricia snores. Uncle Glenn announced, stirring cream into his coffee. Kept me up half the night. Patricia ignored him. That was quite a party last night. Trent certainly knows how to put on an event. Victoria's family paid for most of it, Eleanor said quietly. But yes, it was beautiful. All that matters is they're happy, Patricia continued. Though I have to say, that speech Trent gave about you, she looked at Jack. I'm not sure that was entirely appropriate. A wedding toast should be about the couple, not family jokes. Glenn sipped his coffee. The boy was just having fun. At someone else's expense, Patricia countered. I'm just saying it was in poor taste. Eleanor's face tightened. Trent didn't mean anything by it. He was nervous. People say things when they're nervous. Jack ate his eggs in silence. This was the pattern, the same choreography that played out after every family gathering where Trent crossed a line nobody wanted to acknowledge was a line. Patricia would criticize. Eleanor would defend. Glenn would minimize. And Jack would sit there, the subject of the discussion, but somehow not included in it. Jack, his mother said softly, you understand, don't you? Your brother doesn't think before he speaks sometimes. I understand, Jack said. Good, because I don't want this to become a thing. It's done. Everyone had a wonderful time. Let's not dwell on it. Patricia made a small, disapproving sound in her coffee cup, but said nothing else. Jack finished his breakfast, said his goodbyes, and walked to his truck. The parking lot was emptier now, most of the St. Louis crowd having left early to beat traffic. A few workers were breaking down the ceremony decorations on the deck. His phone buzzed again. Trent. Hey man, thanks for coming yesterday. Meant a lot. Victoria wants me to tell you thanks for handling all the vendor coordination too. You really made things easy. Jack stared at the message. Thanks for coming. Thanks for handling things. As if those were equivalent contributions. He typed back. No problem. Congratulations again. 3 dots appeared. Then, we should grab dinner next time I'm in town. Been too long since we actually hung out. Jack didn't respond to that. He drove home, through morning traffic, country roads giving way to the familiar streets of Hollis Creek. The town looked the same as always, quiet, modest, unchanged. He passed the high school where both he and Trent had graduated, the park where they'd played as kids, the street where their father's hardware store used to be before the Dollar General put out of business. At home, Jack unpacked his overnight bag, threw his suit in the dry cleaning pile, and opened his laptop. Monday morning routes needed planning. Client emails needed responses. The business kept moving whether he wanted to think about it or not. But his mind kept circling back to the wedding, to Trent's speech, to the laughter, to his mother's apologetic face, to the vendor payment schedules still sitting in his banking app, all queued for release. He'd authorized most of them to go through at midnight as planned. The caterer, the florist, the photographer, all the vendors who'd provided their services and deserved to be paid. But not the venue, that one he'd held, not out of some elaborate plan, not from any clear sense of revenge. Just held it, paused it, left it sitting there in the queue, unauthorized, pending. Jack stared at the payment screen now, in the Monday morning quiet of his living room. The venue's final balance, $18,400, due on completion of services, which technically meant it was already overdue by 12 hours. He could release it right now. Click one button. Everything would be fine. His finger hovered over the authorization button. The thing about being useful, he thought again, was that people stopped seeing you as anything else. He closed the laptop. The call came Tuesday afternoon while Jack was in his truck between deliveries. Jack Harlan, an unfamiliar voice, female, professional but strained. Speaking, this is Melissa from the lodge at Mirror Lake. I'm trying to reach you about an outstanding payment for the Harlan Brennan wedding. Jack pulled into a gas station parking lot. What about it? Our records show the final venue fee hasn't cleared. We've tried contacting Mr. Trent Harlan, but he's directed us to you as the account manager. That's correct. Well, our contract stipulates full payment within 24 hours of event completion. We're now outside that window, and I need to know when we can expect the transfer. Jack watched cars pull in and out of the gas pumps. Normal people doing normal things, none of them standing at any particular crossroads. There was an issue with the bank routing, he heard himself say. I'm working on resolving it. Can you give me a timeline? End of week. A pause. Mr. Harlan, our company policy is very strict about payment schedules. If we don't receive the transfer by Friday, we'll need to escalate this to collections. I understand. All right. I'll note in the file that you're working on it. Please contact me immediately when the issue is resolved. Will do. He hung up and sat in the truck, engine idling, air conditioning blowing stale air. What was he doing? This wasn't him. This wasn't how he operated. He solved problems. He kept things running smoothly. He was the reliable one, the one who made sure everyone else's lives worked properly. His phone rang again. Trent. Hey, the venue just called me freaking out about payment, Trent said without preamble. They said they talked to you? What's going on? Banking issue. What kind of banking issue? Technical thing with the LLC account. I'm sorting it out. Can you sort out faster? Victoria is stressed enough without vendors calling us about money. I thought you had all this handled. Jack's grip tightened on the steering wheel. I do have it handled. Then why are they calling? Because these things take time, Trent. Come on, man. You know how to do this stuff. Just push the payment through. It's not that complicated. I said I'm working on it. By Friday, right? That's what you told them. Yes. Good. Because Victoria's already dealing with drama from her family about the wedding budget, and I don't need this becoming a thing. A pause. Everything else went through fine though, right? The other vendors? Yes. Okay. So just fix this one, and we're good. Trent's tone shifted to something lighter. Seriously though, great wedding, right? People are still texting me about it. Best party of the year, someone said. Jack said nothing. All right, I've got to run. Meeting in 5. Just take care of that payment thing. The line went dead. Jack sat in the parking lot for another 10 minutes, watching people come and go, buying lottery tickets and energy drinks and whatever else got them through Tuesday afternoon. Then he drove to his mother's house. Eleanor was in the garden when he arrived, pulling weeds from around her tomato plants. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the yard. She looked up when Jack's truck pulled in, shielding her eyes. Twice in 1 week, she called. I must be special. Jack walked over, hands in his pockets. How are you feeling? Fine. My knees are complaining, but that's nothing new. She pulled off her gardening gloves. What's wrong? Why does something have to be wrong? Because you have that look. The one you get when you're thinking too hard about something. She stood, brushing dirt from her jeans. Is this about the wedding? Sort of. They sat on the back porch, Eleanor in her usual chair, Jack leaning against the railing. What did you think? He asked. Honestly, I thought it was lovely. Your brother looked very happy. That's not what I asked. Eleanor was quiet for a moment, hands folded in her lap. I thought his speech was unnecessary. The part about you. Yeah, he does that sometimes. Makes jokes that aren't really jokes. I don't know where he gets it from. He gets it from knowing nobody will call him on it. His mother's face creased with something between sadness and frustration. What do you want me to say, Jack? He's your brother. You've always been different priorities, different paths. That doesn't mean he doesn't care about you. He doesn't know anything about me. That's not true. Mom, when's the last time Trent asked me about my life? About what I actually do? He's busy. He's not busy. He just doesn't care. And that's fine. But let's not pretend it's something other than what it is. Eleanor looked out at the garden, at the tomato plants she'd been tending. You've always been harder on him than necessary. Ever since you were boys. He left, you stayed, and some part of you can't forgive him for that. I don't care that he left. Then what do you care about? The question hung in the air between them. I care, Jack said slowly, that you make excuses for him. Every time, no matter what he does or says, you explain it away. Like he's still a kid who doesn't know better. I'm not making excuses. You are. You did it Sunday morning at breakfast. You did it just now. And you know what the worst part is? You never defend me the same way. When people talk about me, like I'm some failure who couldn't figure out life, you just sit there. That's not fair, isn't it? Eleanor's eyes were wet now. I love both of you, equally. But you're the strong one, Jack. You always have been. You don't need me to defend you. Maybe I do. Then tell me what to say. Tell me what would make this better. Jack stood up, hands gripping the porch railing. I don't know, Mom. I really don't. He left shortly after that, the conversation unfinished, both of them frustrated in ways that couldn't be easily resolved. Driving home, Jack thought about what his mother had said, about him being the strong one, about not needing defense. It occurred to him that being strong in his family meant being the one who absorbed everything, who took the hits and kept going, who held things together while everyone else fell apart or moved on. Being strong meant being used. Wednesday and Thursday passed in a familiar rhythm, deliveries, client calls, route planning. Jack moved through his days on autopilot, going through motions perfected by repetition. But in the back of his mind, the unpaid venue fee sat like a stone in his pocket, small but present, impossible to ignore. Friday morning, Melissa from the lodge called again. Mr. Harlan, I haven't seen the payment come through yet. I'm aware. Our deadline was end of business today. I'm calling to confirm you'll be making the transfer. Jack sat at his kitchen table, coffee growing cold in front of him. What happens if I don't? A pause. Excuse me. If the payment doesn't come through today, what's your next step? Mr. Harlan, I don't think you understand the seriousness. I understand perfectly. I'm asking what your process is. Another pause, longer this time. We would send a formal demand letter. If that's not resolved within 10 business days, we refer the account to our legal team for collections. Okay, I'm sorry. Are you saying you won't be making the payment? I'm saying I'm still deciding. Sir, this is a binding contract. I'm aware of that too. He could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, confusion giving way to frustration. Let me be very clear, Melissa said, her voice hardening. If this payment is not received by 5 p.m. today, we will pursue all available legal remedies. That includes reporting to credit agencies, legal fees, and potential civil action. Against the LLC, Jack clarified. Not against Trent Harlan personally. She paused. I need to review the contract. The contract is with Harlan Freight Solutions, LLC. Trent Harlan signed as an authorized party, but the actual liability falls on the company entity, which is mine. Silence. I'll have our legal team contact you, Melissa finally said. Looking forward to it. Jack hung up and stared at his phone. What was he doing? This wasn't just holding a payment anymore. This was actively choosing consequences. This was standing at the edge and looking down. His phone rang immediately. Trent, what the hell are you doing? His brother's voice was tight with anger. The venue just called me saying you're refusing to pay. I didn't refuse. I said I was deciding. Deciding? There's nothing to decide. We have a contract. You authorized the payments. This is legally binding. I'm aware. Then why? Trent took a breath. Jack, what is this about? Is this about the speech? Because if you're pissed about that, this isn't about the speech. Then what? This is about 20 years of you treating me like I'm too stupid to notice. Notice what? That you don't know anything about my life. That you've never asked. That you just assume I'm sitting in Hollis Creek delivering packages because I couldn't do anything else. That's not. You asked me to set up an LLC years ago. Do you even know what that company does? Have you ever looked at the paperwork? Do you know how much money actually flows through it? Trent was quiet. You don't, Jack continued. Because you've never cared enough to ask. You just needed someone to handle your financial mess, and I was convenient. I paid you back for that loan. You pay back half. 3 years ago. Then stopped responding to my messages about it. Another silence. Jack, I don't know what you want from me right now, but we can talk about all this later. Right now, I need you to pay the venue. Victoria is freaking out. Her parents are involved. This is turning into a disaster. Then maybe you should handle it. How? It's your company account. Exactly. What do you? Trent's voice dropped, understanding dawning. Are you seriously holding this over me? Over a joke at a wedding. This isn't about a joke, Trent. This is about you never seeing me as anything more than the help. That's insane. Is it? Name one thing about my life. One real thing. Where I work. What I do. What matters to me. Silence stretched across the line. You can't, Jack said, because you've never bothered to know. So your solution is to sabotage my wedding? To make me look like I can't pay my bills? My solution is to stop fixing your problems for you. Jesus Christ. Trent's breathing was sharp now, angry. You know what? Fine. Be petty. I'll handle this myself. But don't expect any gratitude for what you did do, because clearly that wasn't enough for you anyway. The line went dead. Jack set his phone on the table and waited for the regret to hit. It didn't. The rest of Friday passed in strange quiet. No more calls from the venue. No more messages from Trent. Jack went about his deliveries, managed his routes, responded to client emails. Everything normal except for the undercurrent of something irreversible now set in motion. That evening, his mother called. Jack, what's going on? Her voice was strained. Trent called me very upset. Something about the wedding venue and payments. It's complicated, Mom. He said you're refusing to pay them. That you're causing problems over something that happened at the reception. Jack leaned back in his chair. Did he tell you what happened at the reception? He said you were upset about his speech. Jack, I know it wasn't ideal. Not ideal. He humiliated me in front of 100 people. He was joking. No, Mom, he wasn't. And that's the problem. He meant every word. He thinks that's who I am, some failure who never amounted to anything. And you let him think that because it's easier than confronting him. That's not true. It is. Every time he says something like that, you smooth it over. Every time he treats me like I'm less than him, you make excuses, and I'm done pretending that's okay. Eleanor's breath caught. What does that mean? It means I'm not releasing the venue payment. Jack, you can't do that. They'll sue him. Or you. Someone. This is serious. I know. Then stop this. Whatever point you're trying to make. I'm not trying to make a point, Mom. I'm just done being the one who holds everything together while Trent does whatever he wants and you defend him. I'm not defending him. You are. Right now. You called to tell me to fix this. Not to ask why I'm doing it. Not to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, Trent was out of line. Just to tell me to stop causing problems. Because you're better than this. You're the one who stays calm, who handles things. I'm tired of handling things. Eleanor was crying now. He could hear it in her breathing. Please don't do this. Not to your brother. Not to our family. Our family did this, Mom. Not me. He hung up before she could respond. His hand shook as he set the phone down. Not from fear or regret. For something else. Something that felt like a locked door finally opening. Saturday morning brought a certified letter from the lodge's legal team. Jack signed for it at his door, carried it inside, and read through the formal language demanding payment within 10 business days or face collections proceedings. He filed it carefully and went about his day. Sunday morning, Patricia called. I'm not getting in the middle of this family drama, she announced, but I think you should know that Trent and Victoria are talking about pressing charges for fraud. Fraud. Apparently you misrepresented yourself as managing his accounts when really it was your company. Jack almost laughed. He signed papers giving me power of attorney over that LLC. There's no fraud. Well, you need to tell him that. And you need to resolve this. Your mother is distraught. Then maybe someone should tell Trent to apologize for what he said. It was a joke, Jack. Grow up. Was it? Because it sounded like what he actually thinks. Patricia made an exasperated sound. Fine. Be stubborn. But when this family falls apart, remember you were the one who chose this. She hung up. Jack sat in his living room, the Sunday afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows, illuminating dust motes floating in the air. His phone sat silent on the coffee table. No more calls. No more messages. He'd crossed a line he couldn't uncross. And the strange thing was, he didn't want to go back. The next week unfolded in a series of small earthquakes, each one reshaping the landscape of Jack's family in ways that couldn't be undone. Monday brought an email from Trent's lawyer, a real one this time, not just the venue's counsel. The message was formal, coldly professional, outlining the alleged breach of fiduciary duty and demanding immediate resolution. Jack forwarded it to his own lawyer, a woman named Rebecca Chun who handled his business contracts and had seen stranger cases than feuding brothers. They don't have a strong case, Rebecca told him over the phone that afternoon. The LLC structure is clear. You're the sole owner and operator. Trent signed documents years ago acknowledging this arrangement. At worst, they could argue you acted in bad faith, but given that all other vendors were paid on time, it's hard to demonstrate damages beyond the venue fee itself. What about the venue's threats? Routine intimidation. They'll send a few more letters, maybe escalate to a collections agency. But ultimately, they contracted with your LLC. If the LLC pays, which it will, they have no further claim. Jack stared out his office window at the quiet street below. What if I just don't pay them at all? Rebecca was quiet for a moment. Are you asking me as your lawyer or as someone trying to understand what you're doing? Both. As your lawyer, I'd advise against willful breach of contract. The legal fees would exceed the actual debt. As someone who's known you for 5 years and never seen you act irrationally, I'd ask what you're really trying to accomplish here. I'm trying to stop being invisible. You're not invisible, Jack. You're just the only adult in a family of people who never grew up. Same thing. No, one is about you. The other is about them. After hanging up, Jack sat at his desk and pulled up the payment authorization one more time. $18,000 for $100. The number had become almost abstract now, divorced from its actual meaning. It wasn't about money. It had never been about money. It was about the moment when usefulness turned into erasure. He closed the laptop without authorizing anything. Tuesday evening, his mother showed up at his door. Jack opened it to find Eleanor standing on his porch, arms wrapped around herself despite the warm evening. She looked smaller than usual, older. The kind of aging that happens in moments of high stress rather than across years. "Can I come in?" she asked. He stepped aside. Inside, Eleanor sat on his couch with the careful movements of someone trying to hold themselves together. Jack took the armchair across from her, waiting. "Your brother is talking about cutting you out of his life," she said finally. "Completely. No more contact. He's that angry." "Okay. Jack, that doesn't upset you? Should it? When's the last time Trent and I actually talked about anything real? When's the last time he called me just to check in? We don't have a relationship, Mom. We have an arrangement where I handle things, and he shows up for holidays. That's not fair. It's completely fair." Eleanor's hands twisted in her lap. "I know he's not perfect. I know he can be thoughtless. But he's your brother. You grew up together. You can't just throw that away over money. This isn't about money. Then what is it about?" Jack leaned forward. "How much do you think I make, Mom?" The question seemed to startle her. "What? My income. Ballpark. What do you think I bring in annually?" "I don't. That's not something I think about." "Guess." "Jack, this is inappropriate. 30,000? 40? I mean, I'm just a delivery driver, right? That's what Trent said. That's what the whole family believes." Eleanor looked uncomfortable. "I don't know. Maybe 40. Try 270. The silence that followed was profound. "That's—" Eleanor shook her head. "That can't be right. Harlan Freight Solutions handles logistics coordination for 17 regional companies. I own the LLC outright. I built it from nothing over 10 years. I kept it quiet because I learned early that telling this family about success just means they ask for money." His mother's face had gone pale. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you never asked. None of you did. You just assumed I was scraping by, stuck in place, too dumb or too lazy to do better. And that assumption was convenient for everyone." "Jack, do you know I've loaned Trent money 3 times? Not just a credit card thing. 3 separate times. Once for a security deposit on his first apartment. Once for a car down payment. Once for the credit cards. He's paid back maybe 30% total." Eleanor's hands had stilled now, gripping each other tight. "And the medical bills," Jack continued. "After Dad died, the ones insurance didn't cover. You remember telling me you were setting up a payment plan?" "Yes. There was no payment plan. I paid them. All of them. $15,000 over 2 years. I never told you because I knew you'd feel guilty or try to pay me back when you couldn't afford to." "Jack." So when Trent stood up at his wedding and told 100 people that I'm just some nobody who couldn't make it out of our hometown, he wasn't joking. He was saying what he actually believes. Because I let him. Because staying quiet was easier than dealing with his resentment of me having success he didn't know about. Eleanor was crying now, silently, tears running down her face unchecked. "I'm not trying to hurt you, Mom, but I'm done protecting everyone from the truth. Trent has spent 20 years being an asshole to me because it made him feel better about leaving. And you've spent 20 years making excuses for him because it's easier than admitting your golden child is selfish. He's not. He is. And that's okay. People are allowed to be selfish, but they're not allowed to treat other people like garbage without consequences." Eleanor stood up, shakily, grabbing her purse. "I don't know who you are right now. I'm the same person I've always been. You're just finally seeing me." She left without another word, the door closing behind her with a soft click that felt like something breaking. Jack sat in the silence of his living room, the evening light fading outside, and felt nothing but a strange, hollow clarity. The week continued its downward spiral. Wednesday brought text messages from relatives he hadn't heard from in years, all with variations of the same message. "What's going on with you and Trent? Can you guys work this out?" Thursday brought a Facebook post from Trent, carefully worded, just vague enough to maintain plausible deniability. "Grateful for everyone who supported our wedding. Disappointed in those who chose drama over family. Moving forward with the people who matter." The comments filled with supportive responses from friends who didn't know the context. A few family members liked it. His mother left a heart emoji. Jack didn't respond, didn't engage, just watched the performance from a distance. Friday brought another call from the venue's lawyer, this one more aggressive. Jack listened patiently, then transferred the full payment, principal plus late fees, from his LLC account. Not because he'd changed his mind, not because anyone had apologized, but because the point had been made and dragging it out further would serve no purpose. The lawyer confirmed receipt with obvious relief and surprise. I'm updating our records to show full payment. This matter is now closed. Good, Jack said and hung up. He texted Trent. Venue is paid in full. Your legal threat can go back in the drawer. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then reappeared. You're unbelievable. You know that. You put us through a week of hell for what? To prove you're in control? Jack typed back. To prove I exist. What the hell does that mean? Ask yourself when you last acted like I did. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared 3 more times. Then nothing. The following week brought an unexpected development. Victoria called. Jack almost didn't answer. He hadn't saved her number, and the unfamiliar area code made him assume it was spam. But something made him pick up. Jack, it's Victoria, Trent's wife. Yeah, I know. Can we talk? In person. About what? Please. Just coffee or something. There's stuff you should know. They met at a diner halfway between Hollis Creek and St. Louis, neutral territory that satisfied neither of them. Victoria arrived 15 minutes late, looking tired in a way that suggested the exhaustion ran deeper than late nights. She ordered tea and didn't touch it. Trent doesn't know I'm here, she started. He'd be furious if he knew. Then why are you? Victoria looked at him directly for the first time. Because you were right. About everything. She wrapped her hands around the teacup. The speech at the wedding. I told him not to make jokes about you. We fought about it. He said it would be fine, that you had thick skin, that brothers tease each other. He believes that. I know. But watching it happen, watching your face, I knew it wasn't teasing. And then when this whole payment thing blew up, Trent was so angry. Kept calling you jealous, petty, vindictive. Said you'd always resented his success. Jack said nothing. But the past few days, I started noticing things, Victoria continued. How he talks to you. How he talks about you. How he doesn't actually know anything about your life. And I started asking questions. What kind of questions? About money. About how he managed bills before we got together. About the LLC that supposedly was his, but apparently wasn't. She met his eyes. He didn't know, Jack. Didn't know how much you'd loaned him. Didn't know you'd paid your mother's medical expenses. Didn't know your business was successful. He genuinely believed the narrative he'd constructed. That I'm a failure. That you're static. Stuck. Less than him. She pressed her palms against the table. And while I pointed out the inconsistencies, how you paid for things, how you handled complex logistics, how you clearly weren't just a delivery driver, he got defensive. Angry. Told me I didn't understand his family dynamics. Do you? I'm starting to. And I don't like what I see. Jack watched her carefully. Why are you telling me this? Because my husband is not who I thought he was. Her voice cracked slightly. Because I'm realizing I married someone who's capable of cruelty disguised as humor. Who diminishes people to feel bigger. Who doesn't actually see anyone except as they're useful to him. That's been Trent for a long time. I know. Now. But that doesn't mean I have to accept it. She pulled out her phone, scrolled, then turned the screen toward him. I found this going through his email last night. It was a thread from 2 years ago. Trent emailing a mutual friend. Jack still doing his small-town delivery thing. Some people just don't have the drive, you know? But hey, at least he's got job security. Jack read it twice, then pushed the phone back. There's more, Victoria said. Years of it. Him talking about you like your charity case. Like you're something to be pitted or mocked. Never anything cruel enough to be indefensible, but always positioned to make him look better by comparison. Why show me this? Because I want you to know it's not in your head. That you didn't overreact. That everything you probably felt for years, it was real. Jack sat back in a booth, processing. This doesn't change anything. I know, but I wanted you to hear it from someone other than yourself. Victoria pulled the phone back. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about the marriage, but I needed you to know that at least one person sees what actually happened. And I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. They sat in silence for a moment, 2 people connected by proximity to someone else, both beginning to recalculate their positions. What did he say? Jack asked finally. When you confronted him, he said I was being dramatic. That brothers give each other crap, and it's fine. That you were just sensitive because you never left home. She smiled without humor. Then he said maybe you needed therapy to deal with your issues. Of course he did. I asked him to apologize, to call you, and actually talk. He refused. She met Jack's eyes again. I'm talking to you instead. Not to fix things. Just to say, you're not crazy. And you don't owe anyone forgiveness. After Victoria left, Jack sat in the diner for another half hour, watching traffic pass outside the window. The conversation had given him something he hadn't realized he needed: external validation. Proof that he wasn't constructing grievances from nothing. But it also created a new complexity. Victoria's awakening to Trent's nature wasn't Jack's responsibility, but knowing it existed changed the shape of things, made the consequences more far-reaching. He paid for both their drinks and drove home in thoughtful silence. October arrived with cooler temperatures and the full colors of autumn painting the Missouri hills. Jack's life continued in its familiar patterns: deliveries, client meetings, route optimization. But underneath, everything had shifted. His mother called once, briefly, to say that Trent was upset about Victoria taking your side. Jack didn't correct her or explain that Victoria hadn't taken sides so much as open her eyes. He just listened and said nothing. Patricia stopped calling entirely. Uncle Glenn sent a text. Families supposed to stick together. Think about that. Jack didn't respond. The strange thing was how little it hurt. Jack had expected grief, regret, some sense of loss for relationships severed. Instead, he felt lighter, unburdened, like setting down a weight he'd been carrying for so long he'd forgotten it was optional. He started saying yes to things he'd previously declined. A business opportunity in Springfield that required travel. A consultation contract with a company in Kansas City. Small expansions of his world that had been impossible when he'd structured everything around being available for family needs. One evening in mid-October, he was reviewing quarterly earnings when his phone rang. Trent. Jack stared at the screen for 3 rings before answering. Yeah. We need to talk. Trent's voice was different. Not angry, not defensive. Just tired. Okay. Victoria left me. Moved out yesterday. She's staying with her parents. Jack set down his pen. I'm sorry. Are you? Yeah, I am. She said it's because of how I treat people. Specifically how I treat you. Trent took a breath. She said I'm a bully who hides it behind charm. That I make myself feel bigger by making other people smaller. Jack said nothing. Is that what you think? Trent asked. Does it matter? I don't know. Maybe. A long pause. I read through some old emails she showed me. Things I said about you. I didn't, he stopped. I didn't realize how it sounded. You meant it, though. I don't know what I meant. I thought I was just being honest. You stayed in Hollis Creek. You worked deliveries. That's what I saw. Because you never looked deeper. I know. Trent's voice cracked slightly. And I don't know how to fix that now. Jack leaned back in his chair, staring at his ceiling. This was the moment in movies where reconciliation happened. Where the wrong party accepted the apology and everyone moved forward. Relationships mended. But life wasn't a movie. I don't think you do fix it, Jack said finally. I think some things break and stay broken. So that's it. 20-plus years of being brothers just ends. It ended a long time ago, Trent. I'm just acknowledging it now. I could change. No, you could try to act different around me. But you fundamentally think you're better than me. Then Mom. Then everyone in Hollis Creek. And that's fine. You're allowed to think that. But I'm allowed to not participate in it anymore. Jack, I'm not angry. I'm not hurt. I'm just done. With the jokes. With being taken for granted. With being the one who handles things quietly while you get credit for success you didn't earn alone. What does that mean? It means I covered her debts. Multiple times. It means I paid Mom's medical bills. It means I coordinated your wedding logistics because you couldn't be bothered with details. And none of that made you see me differently. So clearly, being useful isn't the path to being respected. Trent was quiet for a long time. I didn't know about the medical bills. I know. I would have helped. No, you wouldn't have, because helping would have required noticing in the first place. Another silence. What do you want from me? Trent asked finally. What would make this right? Jack considered the question honestly. What did he want? An apology? He'd probably get one eventually, carefully worded, designed to move past the awkwardness. An acknowledgement? Trent would likely admit some fault if pressed. A relationship reset? But the truth was simpler and harder than any of those things. I want you to be honest with yourself, Jack said. About who you are, about how you treat people, about whether you're actually happy with the person you've become. That's not fair. It's completely fair. You spent 20 years being someone Mom could brag about. Someone who looked successful. But you're miserable, Trent. Your wife left because she saw through it. Your career stresses you out. You're constantly performing. And you're what, enlightened? Living your authentic truth in Hollis Creek. No, I'm just not pretending anymore. Not for you. Not for Mom. Not for anyone. So I'm supposed to just accept that we're done? That I don't have a brother anymore? You never treated me like a brother. You treated me like a support system. The line went quiet. Jack could hear Trent breathing, processing, maybe crying. I'm sorry, Trent said finally. For what that's worth. I'm genuinely sorry. Okay. Is that all you're going to say? What else is there? I don't know. Forgiveness? Another chance. Those things are earned, Trent. Over time, with changed behavior. Not granted in a phone call because your marriage fell apart. You're really going to hold this grudge forever? It's not a grudge. It's a boundary. There's a difference. Sounds the same to me. That's because you've never had to set one. They talked for a few more minutes, circling the same territory without resolution. Eventually, Trent said he had to go, his voice hollow and defeated. Take care of yourself, Jack said. Yeah, you too. The line went dead. Jack sat in his quiet house, the October evening settling into darkness outside, and felt nothing but a strange, profound peace. Thanksgiving came and went without the usual family gathering. Eleanor called to say she'd been invited to Patricia's, but understood if Jack didn't want to come. Jack thanked her and spent the day alone, working on year-end financial planning and eating Chinese takeout. It should have felt lonely. Instead, it felt honest. December brought the first snow and the end-of-year rush for his business. Jack worked long hours coordinating holiday, shipping logistics, managing increased demand, finalizing contracts for the following year. The money was good. The work was satisfying in a way that had nothing to do with anyone else's opinion. 2 weeks before Christmas, his mother called. Can I see you? She asked. No agenda. I miss you. They met for lunch at the diner in Hollis Creek, the same one where Jack and Victoria had talked. Eleanor looked different. Not older this time, but clearer, like someone who'd made peace with something difficult. I've been thinking a lot, she said after they ordered. About what you said. About Trent. About me. Jack waited. You were right. About most of it. Eleanor's hands were steady on the table. I didn't make excuses for him. For years. Because it was easier than admitting my son could be cruel. And I did take you for granted. Because you were always there, always handling things, and I convinced myself that meant you didn't need support. Mom, let me finish. She took a breath. I failed you, Jack. As a mother, I let you carry weight you shouldn't have had to carry. I let Trent diminish you without defending you. And I'm sorry. Genuinely, deeply sorry. Jack felt something loosen in his chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but acknowledgement. Thank you, he said. I don't expect you to forget what happened, or to go back to how things were. But I want you to know I see it now. I see you now. Eleanor's eyes were wet, but steady. And I'm proud of you. Not because of your business or your money, but because you stood up for yourself when no one else would. They sat in silence for a moment, decades of complicated history settling into something more honest. How's Trent? Jack asked. Not good. He and Victoria are trying couples counseling, but I don't think it's working. She paused. He's lost, I think, realizing that the version of himself he constructed doesn't actually make him happy. That's not my responsibility to fix. I know. I'm not asking you to. I'm just telling you what's happening. They finished lunch talking about smaller things, Eleanor's arthritis treatment, Jack's expansion plans, the weather. Normal conversation between two people rebuilding trust slowly. When they parted in the parking lot, Eleanor hugged him tightly. I love you, she said. I know I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you too, Mom. Will I see you for Christmas? Maybe. Let me think about it. That's fair. Driving home, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in months, hope. Not for reconciliation with Trent. Not for the family to magically heal. But for the possibility that honesty could coexist with love. That boundaries didn't require abandonment. That being seen was enough. Christmas arrived with bitter cold and clear skies. Jack spent the morning at his mother's house, just the two of them, exchanging modest gifts and eating a simple meal. No drama, no tension, just two people choosing to show up for each other differently. Trent didn't call. Victoria did, briefly, to wish Jack happy holidays and let him know she'd moved out permanently. The divorce papers were being filed in January. She sounded sad but certain. "Thank you," she said before hanging up, "for not being what he said you were." "You're welcome." New Year's came with the promise of a fresh start, though Jack knew better than to believe years turned over that cleanly. Still, reviewing his business projections for the coming year, planning expansions he'd been postponing, he felt something like optimism. His phone buzzed. A text from Trent. "I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I'm in therapy, actually trying to figure out why I am the way I am. Thought you should know." Jack stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back, "Good for you." Seriously. 3 dots appeared. Does this change anything? Not yet. But it's a start. Fair enough. Jack set his phone down and looked out at the winter landscape of Hollis Creek. The same town he'd been born in, grown up in, chose to stay in despite everyone assuming it was failure by default. The same streets and buildings and people who'd known him his whole life. But different now, because he was different. Not because he'd left or proven himself through grand gestures, but because he'd finally stopped performing his own diminishment for the comfort of others. The wedding they never thanked him for had been the catalyst. But the real change had happened in the weeks that followed, in his refusal to keep smoothing over, fixing, enabling, in his decision to be seen rather than useful. And if that meant smaller holidays, quieter family gatherings, relationships that would never be what they were, that was fine, because for the first time in 20 years, Jack Harlan was living a life that belonged to him alone. No apologies, no explanations, just honest, ruthless, necessary boundaries. And that, he was discovering, was worth more than any gratitude he'd never received.